Okay, a partial graph of f of x, a radical function with an integral 0, is shown. So this is some kind of root, and they're telling us that this is a whole number, so don't worry about whether it's minus 1.97 or whatever. They're saying it's a whole number, it's minus 2. So what's the 0 of the function? That would be where it hits the x-axis. It's at minus 2. State the root of the function. That's another way of saying where's the x-intercept, or where's the 0, so negative 2 again. Use the graph to determine to the nearest whole number. Oops, sorry. Bring this down a bit. The solution to f of x equals 3. Well, that's saying if this line is f of x, when does it get up to 3? 1 is there, 2 is there, 3 is here. And it looks like the radical gets to that point at, is that 7? Looks like it's around x equals 7. They said to the nearest whole number, so definitely 7 would be the closest. And what about when f of x minus 4 equals 0? Well, that's a lousy way to write that. Let's take that 4 over to the right-hand side and get something a little nicer. When does f of x equal 4? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 should be about here. Our radical hits the 4 line at right about that point, and the x there looks like 14 to me. X equals 14. Okay, so nothing too bad. They're just getting you used to this f of x standing in for the curve. So this is, when is the curve equal to 0? When is the curve equal to 3? And after a quick tweak, when is the curve equal to 4? Nothing to it when you have the graph drawn. Now D, in each case, explain how to use the graph to determine the approximate solution to the given equation and state the solution to the nearest whole number. Okay. Well, now they're getting horizontal translations into this, which is not very nice of them. Pretend for a moment that you didn't have this part. You can't make out what's in there. And so, I don't know, somebody faxes this to you, and you can't read this part because there's a smudge. And so you call them back and say, hey, can you refax that to me? I can't read this section. And then you decide to see how far you can get with it anyway. You say, okay, for the moment, I'll just call that f of, I don't want to use x, let's use f of q equals 0. Meaning, when will our function equal 0? Let's see what we can do with that. So here's 0, and our function gets to that at negative 2. Okay? So our curve hits 0 at negative 2. And so you come back here and you go, okay, well, this q thing, whatever that blob is in the expression, has to be negative 2. I wish I could read that. And then the person who sent you the question calls back and says, hey, sorry, the thing in the brackets is supposed to be an x plus 6. So you go, okay, well, if they meant that to be x plus 6, then x plus 6 has to be minus 2. Subtract 6 from each side, and you get x must be negative 8. So when they give you a transformation like this, rather than try to shift your graph and all that stuff, just cover that section up for a moment and say, if that wasn't there, if there was just some x or some other symbol in that place, how would I solve the problem then? Solve the problem there, and then sub in their distracting extra junk like the x plus 6 and finish it off. Question 2, let's see, they do this again. So again, I'm going to get rid of this section. Pretend you can't read that. Pretend it's just f of blue blob equals 5, and let's see what we can do with that. So when is our function equal to 5? Here's 5. And if we read over to the right, we hit our function right about here, isn't it? What is that, 23? I think that's 23. So whatever this blue blob is in here, we wish it were an x because then life would be easy, but whatever it is, it's got to come out to 23, and then we'll get f of 23 equals 5. Well, that blue blob stands for x minus 3, so this question is actually x minus 3 equals 23. Okay, well, now we do one more step. We add 3 to each side, and we get x has to be 26. So, when you're given a translation like this, first thing you do, blip it out. Pretend there's an x here or a blue blob or whatever makes you happy. Just ignore that part. Solve this part of the expression. And then once you have that solved, once you have like blue blob equals 23, then you can go back and say, all right, now let's deal with what that blue blob really is. It's actually x minus 3. Sub that in and finish off the problem.